There are some irregular verbs in the preterite. Let's take a look at them. There's a whole set of verbs in the preterite that have a different stem for the preterite forms. And let's go over them. For instance, the verb tener. For the preterite, the stem is tuv. For estar, estuv. Andar, anduv. Poder, pud. Venir, bin. Hacer, is. Poner, pus. Decir, dij. Querer, quis. Saber, sup. Traer, traj. Conducir, conduj. And caber, cup. Now, to these stems, you're going to add the following endings. Iste, o, imos, istais, hicieron. So let's look at the chart for these verbs. Let's take a verb like tener, which is tuv. So here are the endings that you add. Tuve, tuviste, tuvo, tuvimos, tuvisteis, tuvieron. Let's take a verb like hacer. Hice, hiciste, hizo, hicimos, hicisteis, hicieron. Now, note that the first and the third person endings are no longer stressed, as was the case with the irregular preterite endings. And there's no written accent. Also notice that with the verb hacer, the third person singular is hizo, and it has to be spelled with a Z, not a C. Otherwise, you would lose the sound of hizo, and it would be ico, which is not correct. Let's look at some examples. Me puse la chaqueta esta mañana porque hacía frío. I put on a jacket this morning because it was cold. Notice that puse is in the preterite, and notice that hacía frío is in the imperfect. Tuve un susto con el aumento del alquiler. I had a fright with the increase of the rent. Estuvimos muy cerca del cole. We were very close to my school. Vino tarde a la reunión. He came late to the meeting. ¿Hiciste la tarea para hoy? Have you done the homework for today? Now, there's a whole set of IR verbs that have stem changes in the present, but then they also have stem changes in the preterite. And where the O in the present tense goes to we, in the preterite it goes to u. And where the e in the present tense goes to ye, in the preterite it goes to e. So let's look at this group of verbs. Dormir, pedir, despedir, vestirse, preferir, sentir, reír. So let's take dormir, to sleep. Dormí, dormiste, durmió. There the O changes to U. Durmió. Dormimos, dormisteis, durmieron. So these changes are only affecting the third person singular and plural. Let's take another verb in this group. Pedir, to ask for. Pedí, pediste, pidió. Pedimos, pedisteis, pidieron. And another verb in this group. Sentir, to feel. Sentí, sentiste, sintió. Sentimos, sentisteis, sintieron. Finally, there's a group of verbs that have completely irregular forms. That includes ser, ir, and dar. So for the preterite for ser, fui, fuiste, fue, fuimos, fuisteis, fueron. And for ir, it's just the same. Fui, fuiste, fue, fuimos, fuisteis, fueron. Context will tell you the difference. And for dar, di, diste, dio, dimos, disteis, dieron. Now, be advised, there are a few superficial spelling changes for the preterite forms that are just done to preserve the original sound of the verb. For instance, comenzar, which is spelled with a Z, in the first person has to be spelled with a C. Comencé. Llegar, which is spelled L-E-G-A-R, in the preterite first person has to be llegué, spelled with G-U. The verb hacer, we've already talked about, where the C has to switch to a Z for hizo. And buscar, in the first person, it's busqué, spelled Q-U-E. And finally, tocar, to touch or to play an instrument. Toqué, spelled Q-U-E.